Hello and welcome dear CCR TV viewers. The talk on Life is Precious. We are called to celebrate life, for it is sacred. Value life. God loves each one of us. Human life is sacred because from its beginning, it involves the creative action of God. Among all the creatures of God, human being alone is created in the image and likeness of God. That we find in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. Human life has value, dignity and sanctity, which belongs to its very nature. The Second Vatican Council affirms that man is the only creature on earth that God willed for its own sake. Gaudium et Spes, number 24. Value of life in a consumeristic culture. In our times, due to consumeristic culture, the value of life is diminishing. We have reached a stage where some of us do no longer listen to the voice of conscience, and as a result, we witness a culture of death. Suicide is a part of this culture and the most extreme and cruelest form of expression against human dignity. There are varying cultural attitudes and teachings on suicide. One among these is the teaching of the Church, the Catholic Church. In its work, Catechism of the Catholic Church, also known as CCC. The CCC number 2280 states that we are stewards, not owners of the life God has entrusted to us. It is not to us to dispose of. Each one of us is responsible for our own lives, but it is God who remains the sovereign master of life. Further, in CCC 2281, suicide goes against the two commandments, love of God and love of neighbor. Suicide is an insult to God. It offends neighbor. Apart from the teachings of the Church, the natural instinct of a person is that of self-preservation. When faced with a problem and one cannot see a solution, some people make suicide a permanent solution for a temporary problem. The expression, make suicide rather than commit suicide, is because most of those who make suicide are in an ambivalent state. Dr. Robert Firestone, in his separation theory, has identified a split within a person. That is, the real self and the anti-self. One part of the person wants to live and is goal-directed and life-affirming. That is, the real self. While the other part is self-critical, self-hating, and ultimately self-destructive, which is the anti-self. When someone decides to take his own life, that person is acting of the will of the anti-self. According to the 2015 report of the Government of India, the national rate of suicide is 11.7 per lakh population, while in Goa it is 15.8 per lakh population. It is more painful to note that in India, every hour one student makes suicide, and those who attempt are more. Though this is an alarming situation, yet it can be effectively handled if we all join hands. Friends, suicide is preventable if we adopt a culture of life. For this reason, World Suicide Prevention Day is celebrated every year on 10th September. WHO for 2018 had appealed to everyone under the banner, working together to prevent suicide. Let us actively promote the culture of life. Let me share with you how the project of happiness gives meaning to life. Once, a teacher from a US-based school decided to have a class project. She invited each student and told them how each of them made a difference to her life. And then she put a blue ribbon on each one of them which had on it words, "Who you are makes a difference." And later gave each one of them 3 ribbons and told them to appreciate any one of the persons who they felt to recognize. And they were told to ask them to do the same. One of the lad took this ribbon and went to a junior engineer of a company. The boy explained to the junior engineer that they were doing a class project and they were to appreciate anyone they think has helped them. The boy said, "I felt that I needed to appreciate you for the help you rendered to complete my school assignment." Then the boy asked the permission of the junior engineer to put the ribbon on his shirt, which read, "Who you are makes a difference." The boy handed over the remaining 2 ribbons to the junior engineer and asked him to do the same. The junior engineer thought for a long time who he could appreciate. Finally, he decided on appreciating his grouchy boss, who plans things meticulously. The junior engineer then goes up to him and explains the project. Tells the boss that there's a school who runs this project for appreciation. And he wants to appreciate his boss for the systematic planning and for the execution of the plans. The junior engineer asked him, his boss, to allow him to put the ribbon on his shirt, which reads, "Who you are makes a difference." And later handing over the last ribbon to the boss, request him to carry forward the project. The boss gave a thought for a good long time. And as he was traveling home, he felt to appreciate his son. On reaching home, he called his son and said to him, "It is you and your mother who makes a great difference to my life. I have always shouted at you for your messy room and your poor grades. Today, I want to tell you that you are a great kid and you matter to me a lot." And the father puts this last ribbon on his son's shirt, which reads, "Who you are makes a difference." The son, on hearing the father, bitterly cries, finally telling his father that he was to take his life that night. He has kept the letter upstairs. The son says, "I do not need it anymore. I thought you never loved me. You had no time for me. At times, I thought that I was a cause of your fight with my mother. I never thought that I mattered to you." Dear friends, a keen look into this story tells us that suicide is a response to the breakdown in communication. Giving time and conveying that you are loved and working in collaboration is a need of the hour. For people who are having suicidal thoughts, for them, normal communication has usually broken down, and the suicide attempt may be the person's way of sending a message or reacting to the isolation they feel because their communication skills are ineffective. Reflect back on the incident just narrated. The son says, "I thought you never loved me. You had no time for me." People who think of committing suicide do not actually want to. It is their desperate cry for help, and they just want someone to reach out to them. Let us not be misled by the idea that if a person really wants to kill himself or herself, no one has a right to stop him or her. No suicide has only one victim. Family members, friends, and society all suffer from the loss of life. Suicide is an attempt to solve a problem of intense emotional pain with impaired problem-solving skills. People with suicidal ideations are often undecided about life or dying right up to the last minute. They are still gambling. To have a deeper understanding on this topic, we will first look at some of the precipitating factors that lead to suicide. Further, we shall contest some of the myths. Later, deal with some of the warning signs and interventions. Finally, before concluding, we will speak about preventive measures. Some of the precipitating factors that lead to suicide are biological, psychological, and environmental. Under biological, it could be mental illness, physical illness, disability, pain, alcoholism, drug addiction, or puberty imbalance. And in no case, the individual, not the family, is responsible. We'll take on psychological factors. Loss of self, a sense of purpose in life, loss of independence, social isolation and loneliness, bullying, and in our present times, cyberbullying, peer pressure, and competition. Environmental factors. They could be unemployment, migration, life stressors, instant culture, where many of our young people do not know the value of delaying gratification. These are some of the precipitating factors that lead one to suicide. Now, we will turn our attention to some of our common myths and facts associated to suicide. 1. People who talk about suicide do not do it. Suicide happens without warning. In fact, although suicide can be an impulsive act, it is often thought and communicated to others, but people ignore the clues. 2. Talking about suicide may give someone the idea. The truth is, raising the question of suicide without shock or disapproval shows that you are taking the person seriously and responding to their pain. 3. Suicide rates are higher among low-income group people. No, suicide shows no prejudice or little prejudice to economic status. It is representative proportionately among all levels of society. Another one, more men complete suicide than women. The truth is, although women attempt suicide more often than men, men are 2 or 3 times more likely to successfully complete a suicide. 5. Once the person is suicidal, she is suicidal forever. In fact, they feel that way until the crisis period has passed for them. Finally, most suicides are caused by a single dramatic and traumatic event. In fact, precipitating factors may trigger a suicidal decision. But more typically, the deeply troubled who has suffered long periods of unhappiness, lack of self-respect, has lost ability to cope with their life and has no hope for the future, or when depression has set in. Dwelling a little more on depression, A person who is depressed needs emotional support and empathy. Encouragement to talk about their suicidal feelings, which can be therapeutic as the first step. Individuals with suicidal thoughts often exhibit physical symptoms as part of their depression and might seek medical treatment for their physical ailments. Very often, suicidal individuals seek counseling but are frustrated when they do not see immediate results. Even when depression is lifted, the suicidal person may have new energy to carry out their suicidal plan. Therefore, caretakers need to be vigilant and compassionate. These are some of the facts that we have placed before you. After having a brief understanding about facts related to suicide, let us review some of the warning signs that people with suicidal thought exhibit. One among them is equipping oneself with suicidal methods or sudden purchase of weapons. For this reason, WHO has called media not to write or show methods of suicide. One needs to be alert when you see someone who is preoccupied with death talk about suicide, speaks about there is no reason to live, no sense of purpose in life, sense of being a burden, profound sense of loneliness, alienation and isolation, sense of fearlessness, making final arrangements like making a will, making payments with undertakers at an inappropriate time of life. One needs to be alert at this time. In the recent past, a young lad, a teenager, sent out a message to his friends saying, "Come for my funeral tomorrow," hours before he could make a suicide. People do give warning signs. Some other warning signs are sudden withdrawal from friends, activities, loss of interest in hobbies, work, school, hygiene, give away prized possessions, taking unnecessary risk, being reckless and impulsive, increasing use of alcohol and drugs, having a history of violence or hostility, showing need to take revenge, feeling trapped, unwilling to connect to potential helpers, increased inability to concentrate or think clearly, having sleeping difficulties, showing dramatic change in moods, symptoms of depression, having attempted suicide before. Friends, when you observe some of this just mentioned behaviors, there is an urgent need that one be fully available to the emotionally disturbed. However, what you should be and what you should say to a person intending to make a suicide is important. Listening without being judgmental and argumentative is the key. You can be the turning point for the person. There are 3 steps that needs to be practiced while helping the emotionally disturbed person. 1. Show you care. Ask about suicide and get help. Show you care. Take all talk of the suicide seriously. If you are concerned that someone may take their life, trust your judgment. Listen carefully. Respect their opinions. Do not teach or preach. Reflect what you hear. For example, "I am just tired. It is not worth this life. Then it will be better." One could rephrase it to the person saying, "I hear you saying life is being challenging for you. It sounds to me that you are not getting answers to the issues you are facing in life. You are feeling tired, trapped, and probably lonely too. Friends, paraphrasing probably may help the person thinking about suicide to open up and share his life with you. Giving non-verbal messages of acceptance and respect is very, very important at this juncture. Use of age-appropriate language is also what is important. Let the person know you really care. Talk about his or her feelings about pain, loneliness, depression, hopelessness, trapped, anger, resentment, or even the idea of taking revenge. Ask about suicide. Do not hesitate to raise the subject. Be direct but non-confrontational. Engage them. Are you thinking about suicide? What thoughts or plans do you have? Are you thinking about harming yourself, ending your life? How long have you been thinking about suicide? Have you a plan about how you would take your life? Do you have the needed weapons? Do you want to die, or do you want the pain to go away? Do you have a therapist or a doctor? Are you seeing him or her? Are you talking to your doctor? Are you taking the prescribed medications? Friends, there is a big possibility by the time you get all the answers for these questions, the person with suicidal thoughts may change his mind. Very importantly, do not leave the person alone. Reassure the person. Encourage the person to participate in the helping process. Encourage the person with suicidal thought to identify other people in their lives who can also help. Know referral resources. Google does give all those helplines which is surrounding the place where the victim could be there. Cooj, Care of Our Joy, runs this suicide prevention helpline Monday to Friday, 1 to 7 in the afternoon. And their number is 2252-525. 225-25-25. Outline a safety plan. Make arrangements for the helper to come to you, or take the person directly to the source of help. Once therapy is initiated, be sure the person is following to the appointments and taking medications. Friends, at this juncture, let me remind you that all this probably may sound simple. However, in reality may not be so simple. It takes a lot of understanding towards the person with suicidal thoughts. I will share with you an incident narrated to me by my friend. After his day's work, he went to the jogging park, which was around a pond. It was around 7 p.m. and a teenager was aimlessly moving up and down a small stretch at a remote part of the lake. My friend asked this teenager if she needed some help. To this, there was a nasty reply. My friend continued his walk, silently and calmly. And before he could leave the place, he handed over his business card and said to her, If she needed, she could drop in his office. She took the card, threw it onto his face. The day ended in silence. 4 days later, there was someone at the door of my friend's office. On entering, she said, "I am alive. Thanks a lot." Yes, it is evident that to help the person with suicidal ideations, one needs to be a proactionist, not reactionist, non-judgmental and compassionate. They want help, yet when offered may not comply. Pursuing them and making them aware that they matter to the society and their contributions are unique to the society is what is the need that needs to be fulfilled. After we have had a little understanding about helping others during their painful emotional crisis, let us now focus on self. Firstly, if you are feeling suicidal, what could you do? Talk to someone you trust about the problem. Visit your nearest counselor, doctor. Secondly, as it is said, prevention is better than cure. Let us grow with positivity and primarily, therefore, be yourself. This reminds me of a student in one of my parishes. On the Teacher's Day, the child came with a card with a message on it that read, "Do not show me an example to others, neither show others an example to me. If you can unfold what is there within me." If you can unfold what is there within me. It is important to do what we can. Therefore, let us focus on our strengths and not on our weaknesses. Discover and nurture our talents. Set goals for yourself and pursue your dreams. Make time for contemplation and appreciation. Identify someone you trust. Interact with persons personally. Think positively. It's easier. Cherish the ones you love. Continue learning as long as you can. As long as you live. Learn from mistakes. Exercise daily. It enhances your well-being. Do not complicate your life unnecessarily. Try to understand and encourage those around you. Do not give up. Success in life is a marathon. Keep the torch burning. Friends, in conclusion, let me reiterate that you are precious. You can make a difference. Those attempting suicide need to know that suicide is not the solution to the problem they are facing. A friend of mine, who after being diagnosed with a rare disorder, attempted to end his life. However, the support he received from his core staff and family during and after his recovery from his attempted suicide had turned him to be a pro-lifer, giving hope to others when still being confined to his bed. With life, there is hope. Ask for help. It is okay. Take care of your health. Please share your emotions. Please share your emotional pains with someone. Sharing your emotional pains with someone is important. You are special, precious. Your contribution to this world is unique, irreplaceable. Friends, What the world needs is a little love, hope, and sensitivity to prevent someone from embracing the culture of death. Be the change. Carry forward the message. Stop worrying, for worrying does not solve any problems. Handle stress. Eat and live healthily, and be positive. Though some suicides are more planned and some are impulsive or due to mental illness, it is vital for us to act quickly and effectively. As I may be the only one to save a person in crisis, suicide is a great loss to self, family, and society. There's also a need to help the family members who have lost their loved one to grieve the loss of their loved one. Dear friends, let us come together to prevent suicide, for life is sacred. Thank you.